Good morning, everybody. Welcome to 1 Million Cups here inside the CMEC building, 7150 Indianapolis Boulevard. I'm Sam Michael. I'm the host here. Every Wednesday, 9:15 to about 10 o'clock, give or take. We have usually just been one presenter, but sometimes we have two still. One presenter today is going to be Justin Harris. He's coming up in just a second, but first I want to thank Coffee Cabin and NanaSweetsBakery.com. And again, we're thinking about Nana, who's still a little bit under the weather, and hopefully back here soon because I need some of those cookies, I think, right? I need some of those cookies. So we'll see if she's back hopefully soon and coming forward. But today we have Justin Harris, who's with eTitle and Escrow, which is a Gary, Indiana-based startup title and escrow company. Their mission is to leverage technology to make the home closing process easier, convenient, and less time-consuming using a digital closing process. Have a big round of applause for Justin Harris.
Thank you. Before I get started, I'd just like to start off a little audience participation. How many of you guys have participated in a home closing? Just by show of hands. Great. Now, could someone very quickly tell me or describe the experience for me? Anyone? Waste of time. Absolutely. Anyone else? No? Okay. Well, to quote Neil Wolin, a former Deputy Secretary of the U.S. Treasury and a very knowledgeable consumer, when he vividly described his closing experience, the documents were literally impenetrable. Here I was, former General Secretary, General Counsel of the Treasury, former General Counsel of a Fortune 100 financial services company, asking my lawyer to help me through 100 pages of turgid gobbledygook. Well, at eTitle, we recognize that one of the biggest financial decisions that consumers will make in their lifetime would be to purchase a home, right? And we understand that that process is a very complex, challenging process, right? Consumers are faced with a daunting package of closing documents that are literally too difficult to understand and too large to absorb. So what we've decided to do is leverage technology to make that home closing process faster, easier, and simpler. Now, just a little bit about the company before I go into the process. We are a Gary-based startup. We're going to offer title searches, examinations, title insurance, tax searches, deed clearances, and settlement services. Our focus will be Northwest Indiana, Metro Indianapolis, Metro Fort Wayne, and at some point in time we will look to go over to across the border and offer our services in the Chicagoland area. We're going to offer our services to real estate brokers. Our focus or target market are real estate buyers, sellers, mortgage brokers, lenders, banks, creditors, and government entities. What we'll offer is we'll offer our title services for refinances, purchases, sales, ROEs, foreclosures, mortgage modifications, and financial home closing transactions. And how we plan to do this is to focus on a settlement process called e-closings. And what this will allow us to do is to shift the closing process to a paperless experience. How we'll do that is because we'll send electronic documents, right? Those documents can be e-signed, e-notarized, e-recorded, and we'll actually video conference the final closing of documents. What this will do is it will increase overall efficiencies, eliminate process steps, eliminate the need for wet signings, reduce errors in manual processes, eliminate the need for in-person signings, and ultimately save the consumer a few dollars. How we, as I mentioned, faster, how we plan to do that is that on average, the traditional settlement process takes about 45 to 60 days. But by doing it electronically, sending electronic documents, having them e-signed, we can reduce that to, on average, about 40 days. That's if all parties are fully engaged and they sign documents in a timely fashion and they get us back to them in a timely fashion. And the reason we're able to do that, back to the point that documents are e-signed and they're e-transmitted. If with the traditional closing process, you have to print those documents, you have to send those documents, that person has to go through those documents, they have to sign them, they have to send them back, and usually it's a pile of documents, right? I mean, at least 100 pages on average, I'd say. And they would have to, most likely, the average home buyer would have to either find a fax machine, they'd have to scan those documents, or they would have to come by the office and drop them off, right? But because our documents are transmitted electronically. Once the consumer signs those documents, they can send them right back to us. We can speed the process. We expect that to take about 2 weeks off the closing process. Also, documents are e-signed, right? Traditionally, with the wet signing, you have to go through maybe 100 pages or more of signing, dating, initialing documents. With the e-signature, you sign one time, you initial one time, and with the click of a button from that point forward, whenever you need to sign documents, that'll take care of it. Web-based video conferences. We all know the inconvenience of leaving our home. We live in Northwest Indiana, right? And we had a pretty okay winter, right? We had some pretty bad days. So imagine on one of those cold 10 below days having to travel from South County to North County to complete a closing, right? Early in the morning, you have to fight traffic, you have to find parking, and it's cold, and it's snowy. So with a web video conference, if you're at home, on vacation, or even during your lunch break, you just log into the system and you can complete your closing. If all things go well, and I put emphasis on if, right? And we do what we have to do, and the buyer and the seller, they do what they have to do, and the other parties do what they have to do. We can shrink and actually reduce the home close, and I've seen this, to less than 10 minutes. And how that's done is because we get the documents out 3 to 5 business days sooner. And what that allows the buyer and the seller and all parties involved more time to review and sign documents. So they get them 3 to 5 business days. And if they have any questions, they can approach their attorney, legal counsel, and have those questions resolved before they get to the final signing. Easier, right? As I mentioned, turgid goobly-gook, right? A lot of legal language, complex, difficult terms, complex covenants, so on and so forth. Well, we can't remove that language from documents. That's legal language, and it has to be in the documents. But what we can do is help explain, right? So we'll embed links and videos that'll help to explain that turgid goobly-gook. All right? So, simple equation for me. Document sooner means more time to review documents. That means more time to ask questions, have those questions answered, and have a better understanding of the process and the procedure of closing on a home. E-signatures, once again, the convenience of a simple click, right? You don't have to sign 25, 30 different pages with the chance of possibly missing a page and having to come back and do the process over. Web-based video conferencing from the comfort, the convenience of your own home, right? And you don't have to have strangers in your home, right? Sounds pretty easy. Safer process. Personal, identifiable information is more secure, right? Our software is cloud-based, so it's stored in the clouds, wherever the cloud is, right? Versus the traditional closing, you have sheets of paper, 4 or 5 different copies, a copy in the office, you have a copy, the recorder has a copy, and it increases the chances of someone compromising your information, right? Documents are sent by encrypted email or secure application program API. Makes sense, right? And we've had documents shipped to us via secured email, right? Absolutely. As you go through the process, say, for example, you get to the closing process and you have to log onto our system, you'll be asked knowledge-based questions, right? And people say, well, you know what, anybody, my mom can guess this. Someone posed that question to me, and I'll just tell you a quick story. Last week, I pulled my credit report, and I went to one of the credit bureaus. I tried to pull it down online, and I failed the knowledge-based questions. That happened twice to me in 2 weeks. Simple answers that I thought I knew, right? So it's a lot safer than we assume, right? This is just not information that anyone would know. I've proven that. Web-based video conferencing, okay? Traditionally, you go to a closing, they take some people take a fingerprint, they take a picture of your ID, and that's okay, right? But it takes time for those fingerprints to come back. So what we do is, with the web-based video conferencing, we record it, we ask you to show identification. We'll snap up, you'll place your ID to the screen, whether you're using your laptop, a desktop, or iPad, or so on and so forth. Yeah, we'll capture a photo of your ID, front and back, and then we'll run an ID check, just to make sure that we have the right person. We'll also use a process called safe escrow, right? So we're going to outsource our escrow process. That's the dispersing funds, okay? So with that, under the safe escrow model, since we're outsourcing, it's an independent company, they'll manage that whole portion, right? So when we want to send out funds, we make the request. What they'll do is they'll confirm bank accounts, right? They'll make sure that we are sending the funds to the right person. We'll actually do electronic systems check. The funds have to be sent to one of the parties involved in the transaction. So it can't go to a third person. It can't go to my grandma, my aunt, so on and so forth. We're simply not going to do that, right? And if you want to change bank accounts, it's 24 hours, right? So if you say, well, I want to send it to this bank account, you got to give us 24 hours so we can go through our process just to confirm that everything's A-okay. Makes sense, right? Is this legal? Yes, it is. Indiana Senate Bill 505 passed back in January. And what that essentially is the Uniform Property Electric Recording Act. And what it does, it allows notaries to use an electronic signature instead of an actual stamp on electronic real estate documents. So what does that mean? It means the notary doesn't have to be in the room to notarize your documents. They can actually use their signature on electronic documents as long as they include the information on the notary seal. Also, recently, Indiana legislation passed, Senate Bill 327, which is the Notorious Acts. I'll probably chew that word up, please forgive me. But essentially what this means is that now Indiana notaries can now notarize documents online for anyone, anywhere in the country. Right? We're not the first state to do this. There are 2 other states that are already doing this, and our legislation was based on Virginia. Virginia was the first. Right? So with these 2, this will allow us to actually do the e-settlement or e-closing process. A little bit about the industry. Back in 2016, the industry generated about $15 billion, a little bit over $15 billion in revenue. And that's from title, insurance premiums, abstracts, endorsement fees, documentation, notary fees, and closing services. Right? The industry is forecast to go on an annualized basis at about 3.3%, and eventually hit about 17 billion or 18 billion in revenue by 2020. For 2016, Indiana's estimated share of national title agent revenue was a little bit over $140 million, right? Northwest Indiana, Metro Indianapolis, Fort Wayne accounted for just a little bit over 58% of that, or close to about $82 million. State of Illinois was $178 million. The Chicagoland area alone accounted for over 72% of that, or a little bit over $127 million in title agent revenue. In total, you consider Northwest Indiana, Metro Indianapolis, Metro Fort Wayne, and the Chicagoland area, that's $209 million in title agent revenue. Our business model is B to B to C. Essentially, title services are sold through referrals. You develop relationships with realtors and real estate attorneys. They make a referral, and that's the basis of the business. Also, we want to focus on real estate developers and builders, right? We all, I don't know, most of us are aware of kind of the plans for the region and some of the development plans, and we want to take advantage of that. We want to be a part of that. You want to focus on mortgage companies, banks, and lenders, right? And the reason why we want to do that is because it is actually the banks, the lenders, and the mortgage companies pushing for electronic closings. Now, we didn't invent the process. We're early adapters, which is going to use this innovation to make the process simpler, right? So the banks are actually pushing electronic and digital closings, and they have a whole bunch of reasons, right? Increased efficiency. Some of us are aware of some of the nefarious acts in the past in the mortgage and real estate market, so it's better to monitor, so on and so forth. We want to focus in on government entities, right? We want to try to do title search and examinations for some of the city governments in Lake County. Also, we want to focus in on real estate investors, right? Recently, we had the tax sale. From what I hear, it was crowded, packed. Some people, some investors didn't get the properties they want. So that's good for the region. But just about all of those people are going to need a title search, and we'd like to be the company to do that for them. Our sales channels, referrals, back to the relationship. It's a relationship-based business. We want to get in front of real estate agents, realtors, develop those relationships, and have them send us referrals, right? And we know that most will already have a person in place, But we understand over time, give us one or two. If that person's not able to do it, let us prove ourselves. We're not looking to change that relationship in the very beginning. Hopefully, over the long term, we can make an impact and they decide to do business with us. Direct sales. I'm out, I'm talking to people about what I'm doing, what I plan on doing, and they always, give me a call when you get up and get started. I'd like to do business with you, and I expect that to continue. Seminars and conferences. We want to get in front of real estate organizations, groups of investors, attorneys, and just talk to them about what we do and how we do it and why it's important. Conferences as well. Marketing activities, we're going to do direct marketing. We're going to email, search engine optimization, letters, phone calls, knock on their door, and kind of tell folks what we're doing. Okay? We're also going to do back to seminars, networking, and conferences. We use print ads, billboards, television, radio. We'll also have a website. One thing about our website, you'll be able to place orders with a lot of title companies. You can do that. But we want to use it as a marketing tool as well and a resource. So we're going to include 100 embedded real estate-related videos on closings, transactions, deeds, so on and so forth. We'll have a mobile app. You'll have the same capability with our mobile app. Our competitors, of course, the big title insurance companies, right? They're always competitors. They're aware of this technology, and some of them are working on it. We think our advantage is just the innovation, being early adapters, this being our niche. And honestly, I don't think we're competing with them because we can't. Right? These guys are giants. They control the industry. We're just trying to stay in our lane and do our thing. Right? We're trying to connect with people who believe in what we believe, and they want to go through the process with a faster, easier, and safer settlement process. Financial projections, pretty conservative, I like to assume. What I did is I took a medium home sales price of $100,000, right, which is lower than what the medium home sales price is in Northwest Indiana, right? And I took 2% for sales closing cost, right? Gave me about $1,900, and I use that as the basis. I think we're in almost mid-2018 or in April. We only have about 7 or 8 more months. And we project that we'll do about 134 closings, right? And our revenue projections also include the possibility of doing business with the city of Gary, Hammond, and East Chicago, doing title searches and abstracts, as well doing tax sale searches as well, because there's a second tax sale search a tax sale coming up, and we want to be there and do some tax searches for those people. Our cost, we just took the basic direct cost, what it would cost for a title abstract, what it would cost for a title examination, what it would cost to use the website for the closing for a signing agent, and I added like a 25% premium to that. I wanted as conservative numbers as possible. So in the first year, we still think we can do $310,000 in revenue. Second year, we should be close to almost $1 million in revenue, and that's based on about 480 closings in 2019. By 2020, we want to be about 1.4 million. And that's based on 600 closings. At that point in time, we'll be, servicing the Chicagoland area. We'll be established in Fort Wayne, we'll be established in Indianapolis, and we'll be established here in this market as well. Our profit, our first year expected profit, is about $55,000, right? First year, we have to outsource a lot of our services. We're a small company, so a lot of our costs will be a little bit higher than I'd like for them to be. But as we progress through the year, we're going to hire our own people. We're going to hire our own title abstractors, our own title examiners. A little background about me, I just recently graduated law school, so I can actually do title examinations, title searches myself, and that will reduce the cost tremendously. But just on the front end, I want to make sure we get the business model correct, we get the service model correct, and at that point in time, once we do that, I can go back and I can get fully engaged in that process or those procedures. By year 2, and I have to tell you guys, with this, I used a software that was kind of limited, so I couldn't go back in and change and account for hiring our own people in year 2, so it ran with the same expenses for year 2 and 3. So year 3, we expect about $300,000 in profit. Once accounting for that, I could not change those expenses. So I expect it to be higher. By year 3, almost $500,000. Once again, I expect it to be over $500,000. Where we are in the process, some of our partners, of course, title abstract, title examiner. We're currently looking for a title insurance underwriter. Right? I've submitted applications to several companies. Should take hopefully about a month, and at the end of this month, we should have a title underwriter under our belt. Our escrow company, our closing software, the company will actually use to do our closings, our final signings. The company will use to do our recordings, and then we'll do the e-signing as well. As I mentioned, we're a startup, so I bootstrapped a lot of this myself, right? And I'm pretty far in the process. I keep telling, no matter what I am, we're 95% there, right? No matter what, another step, we're 95% there. But we could always use some operating capital, and we're out pitching our bids, we're talking to investors, trying to come up with the $50,000. I think, honestly, we can do it without it. I plan to do it without it. Maybe I just start off with title abstract and title examinations, and we work with the city governments. And then as we, get a little bit more revenue, we make a little bit more money, we add the other services. But we are going to do this, right? That's it. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Anybody have any questions for Justin? I'm going to kick off. Anthony, let me bring it back to you.
Is this going to be more of like a disruptor to the market, you think? Or do you think this is going to be more of like a cohesive, like you got the broker, the lawyer, the title, the insurance, and a lot of other parties? Is this going to really make this process, for them, or is it going to more or less eliminate them eventually, And even your app, I think, really doesn't have much of a ceiling on what you can do. I mean, you can incorporate the whole real estate market, so I guess.
Well, actually, I think it depends on the party. I've talked to some real estate attorneys, and I've talked to some realtors. Some love the idea, some don't. It's about changing habits, right? People are used to certain process and procedures, and they're comfortable with that. Now you're asking them to do something different they're not familiar with. In terms of the technology age, it's still relatively new for a lot of us. When I was born, there were no computers, and there are people from older than I am. They're a little hesitant about it. Millennials, they love the idea, right? And they're actually the largest portion of real estate and buyers at this point in time. So it all depends on the person. I do see us disrupting the current process, how it's done right now, because even though the larger companies will be implementing this, it'll be a slower process for them, right? Because they have to change habits, they have to train people, they have to make sure that the software works on a larger scale, and that'll require training, cost, so on and so forth. Whereas with us, we're a smaller company, we're a lot more flexible. If something doesn't work, I can go talk to myself and say, let's get this done, right? So I do see us as disruptors. I also see us as early adapters. But like I said, it depends on the person, really. It depends on how they see it. I mean, because no matter what I think, 9 or 99, this is a great process. This is a great procedure, and it works. It works better than how we used to do it, or that we're currently doing it, right? And if they just take a look at it and take the time to see what it's, and explore it, they'll see. But, once again, you're asking people to change habits, processes, procedures that they've been doing over a very, very long time. I don't know if that answers your question. Kind of, sort of. Okay.
Justin, I thought you did a great job on your presentation.
Thank
It seemed like you started out a little rough, but you got into it. You know the stuff very well. You can definitely tell.
Thank you.
So my experience, I sold a house in Crown Point after I moved to Pittsburgh, and I actually had to fly back here to attend a closing. I thought it was just the most absurd thing. Lawyers have been signing documents and sharing them across the continent for 20 years now. I can't believe that this isn't already something, but you just said in your presentation that it's all dependent on state law, right? So that's what we're waiting for to make this a national trend. Is that correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. Recently, the Consumer Financial Bureau decided to take a look at what happened, with the mortgage meltdown. And way to improve, consumers had a ton of plates, they'd signed documents they didn't understand, and they were looking for ways to improve the process. And one of the concepts they looked at was actually a digital closing, right? One thing they can't do is force everyone to do it. Like I said, it's about changing habits, processes, and procedures. Slowly but surely, some states are adopting the online notarization, especially for real estate documents. I think Indiana, in terms of Indiana Senate Bill 505, that made it the 5th state that would allow electronic notarization on real estate documents, right? We'd be the actual 3rd state, I do believe, if Governor Holcomb signs the bill and he enacts it relatively quick. We'd be the 3rd state to allow for online notarization throughout the entire country on any document.
Is there any other companies doing this nationally?
No. But they're working on it. The Big 4, they are working on it, right? They are working with some of the vendors that I've talked to. And I know this for sure. There are a lot of smaller, fragmented companies implementing the process, but they're slowly implementing the process. Our focus is this is our process. This is how we plan to do it. Right? We understand that there's certain things that have to happen outside of state legislation. Lenders have to agree to it, but this is our process, and we want to work with lenders that do it this way. But yes, there are companies that are doing this. Right? Like I said, we didn't innovate, create this technology. We're just adapting it early. So hopefully, we're the first national company to do this.
Justin, great presentation.
Thank you.
Very credible, very knowledgeable. And, just as a comment, I would challenge you about the millennial target market.
Okay.
We recently refinanced our home and couldn't believe that we spent an hour, the two of us, in a room signing bushel baskets full of papers and walked out saying, I wish there was a better way, and my husband's an attorney, so I think there's a ripe market for people who have gone through closings and just think the whole process needs updating, and there you are.
Right. You're absolutely correct with that.
So what kinds of contacts or connections at this point would benefit you the most?
Well, I develop more relationships with realtors, real estate attorneys, right? We need funding. We like to get in front of some of the banks, the local credit unions, the banks, online lenders, develop relationships with those entities and institutions. Get in front of, we've already had a conversation with the city of Gary. We plan to do some things this month with actually redevelopment, and hopefully they like what we do and they work with us, and that'll take off. But we would like to get in front of East Chicago, Hammond, Whiting. Just a little backdrop about how I came up with the concept. It was brought to me, there were a group of people trying to start a title and escrow company in Gary some years back. They've been working for quite some time, and it never happened. Right? And I initially decided to partner with them, and at some point in time, they decided they just couldn't do the business. Now, fresh out of law school, I decided I'm going to do it. I've got this potential bill, this tremendous bill, and I'm going to have to pay for it, and I need a way to do it. And I don't want to, honestly, I went to law school. I don't want to be a lawyer. I don't want to practice law. What am I going to do? Right, let's look at this opportunity, and I began to look at the opportunity, research, and I joined a group or a class called the Gary Micro Enterprise Initiative, taught by Cynthia Williams. Presented the idea to her. In its first, phase, it was initially north of U.S. 8094. There was not a title and escrow company. It's not a title escrow company in Gary, East Chicago, Hammond, Whiting, and we wanted to focus in and service that area. And I shared that idea with her, and she said, that's good, and you can do better. Right? And initially, I kind of like, oh, no, that hurt. But what I decided to do was go back and do some more research, and I saw the digital closing, or the electronic closings. I said, this is what we're going to do, right? And so I changed my business plan, and I had to present at the end of the class. We had to pitch our business idea. So I had 2 days to pitch. I started working on it, the digital closing concept. The mayor, Gary, was there, by the way, and she liked the idea. And like maybe 2 or 3 days later, I saw her at a Christmas party, and she said, we want the city needs title services. Come see me. I said, okay. We go see her in January, and she gives us 30 minutes, and we give her our spiel, and, why we want to do business in Gary, and why we want to bring title and escrow services, and said, all right, we'll work on something. So that started it back, I think, February 25th. I spoke at the Gary State of the City. talk about why I decided to open my business in Gary and why the title in escrow. And we've just been rolling since. I've done some seminars, some conferences, just talking about deeds and things of that sort of basic real estate knowledge, trying to get in front of people, networking. So that's where we are in the process. So we've developed some relationships. We've got some commitments, and that we're still continuing to market. More importantly, even today, this is what today was about: talking about what we do and why we do it, and how we can help. And why not Gary? I like to talk about that as well. I wasn't born in Gary, but a Gary resident. And when I look at it, I look at the opportunity. I used to be a financial advisor. A little backdrop. I used to be a financial advisor, and I remember getting in the last days before the meltdown. I remember getting the report that said some of the best investment opportunities are right in your backyard. And they referred to the city, areas like the south side of Chicago, the west side of Chicago. And I was working out in Maryville, so my backyard. I'm from Gary, right? In most areas such as Gary, East Chicago, Hammond, there's a service deficit. That means essentially if you're an entrepreneur, that's a chance for you to open a business and be successful, right? And there are a lot of programs to help you, and there are a lot of people waiting for your services. So with that, and I begin to look at what Gary has to offer in terms of what it really has to offer. People from Gary have helped to build America, right, through U.S. Steel. Right? You can find U.S. Steel products throughout the entire country, right? Skyscrapers, railroads, bridges. So I don't buy the excuse you can't trust Gary folks. Yes, you can. You trust them with your life. You just don't know it, right? One thing that we still do is we can build things. If you have a product that you want to build, Gary would be the perfect place. We've got old factories. We've got people that know how to work with their hands, and they're willing and ready to work, right? We all know all the negative statistics, the crime. That's an alternative fact. It's not true. When you look at the statistics, right? And we know how things are there. And they're still building, they're still developing. So what is the issue here, right? So, I've joined some local groups, and we're pushing entrepreneurship in Gary. We're pushing each other. We're looking for more people to come in and join our movement. That's my 2-minute commercial, probably a little bit longer than 2 minutes.
Good morning, Justin.
Good morning.
As a person that owns a real estate company and a mortgage company, this is very welcome in the industry.
Okay, thank you.
The amount of time closings take for everybody involved is, like you said, it's ridiculous. Having to drive back from Pittsburgh, it's all ridiculous. So I guess the question is, so you're not active yet because you're waiting on the underwriting, basically?
Well, in terms of the escrow, we are still going to try to develop the title search portion and examination. We're going to focus in, and we're doing it now. Okay. Like I said, we're working with the City of Gary, their redevelopment department, and we want to try to do some title searches and exams for them in the month of May, right? And say at the end of 30 days, the underwriters still say, no, I'll come back to them in 30 more days, once we get a little bit further in the process. So I'm not letting that, potentially not having an underwriter stop us from opening our doors. There's still business to serve. There's still people who want title searches. There's still people who want title examinations. And if we have to bring in an independent title agent to do our closings and escrows until we get an underwriter, I hate the idea of doing that, but as a convenience to our potential clients, I'm willing to do that.
Right. And I think you're absolutely right. The national players are all working on it, but their idea to market will be years before they perfect it, especially since it's a limited number of states, so they're not going to dump millions into it very quickly. So you're definitely on the right track, getting that jump on it. So best of luck to you.
Thank you much. Thank you much.
Question to front.
Bring the microphone to you. You
go. Good presentation. I really enjoyed that. I'm not a millennial, but my son is, so it's interesting to hear the comments about millennials. He has a business in real estate and enjoyed living in Miller Beach, lives in Chicago now, so believes in Northwest Indiana is buying properties He's rather disruptive himself. He would rather deal with private investors.
Right.
So I think your model is perfect for what he wants to do.
Okay.
So, I'll be talking to him about your business, but it would be very welcome for him. He does not like wasting 4 or 5 hours a day at closings. So,
Thank you.
good business model.
Thank you much.
Thanks for the presentation.
Thank you.
Who else is on your team? Like, can you give us a rundown of?
At this point in time, there's one other person, my business partner, actually my law school classmate. His name's Chuck Williams. He should have been here. I don't know what happened. We're looking to add people. Oh, yeah, he's at a closing. We're looking to add people. We're looking to hire, as I said, hire our own title abstractor. I'm going to learn that portion as well. We're looking for other business partners, and other people we can build a relationship with. We're also working with a company called Anointed Realty out of Geary, right? They'll be working with us on some projects. They'll help us with, actually probably do some signings with us as well. So we're building out, right? We're building out. We're not quite where I want us to be, but step by step.
And then between you and Chuck, do you guys have real estate experience as well, like tangentially, or?
Well, actually, I don't. I come from the financial services background, dealing with real estate in our limited experience. No. Most of, I took real estate law courses. I'm familiar with the subject. I've got friends that have been in the business, own mortgage companies, friends that have actually own title insurance companies that are realtors, brokers, and, that is my base. And if I have any question or any concern, I'm going to call, and I'm going to call into the answer.
Next question, right in front here.
First of all, I don't know if this is working. I don't need it. Excellent presentation.
Thank you.
I've got 2 questions in terms of your overall growth strategy. So you said that so far 3 to 5 states have adopted that as a law.
Yes.
So that kind of reminds me a lot of the whole equity crowdfunding space where it's a state-by-state thing.
Right.
So in your projections, are you looking at other states as a long-term? Now, on the basis of that, though, do you actually require a physical presence to do the other areas you talked about in Indiana?
Actually, we can operate with a call center model, right? And we can service other areas without actually having a physical location, depending on where we are. Like, for example, we will have a Chicago, so when we go into Chicago, the Chicagoland area, we'll actually have a Chicago office. So if there's any issues or concerns, we have to do something face-to-face, we'll make it as convenient as possible. Since we're doing the digital closings, we can actually come out to you, meet you, at your home or Starbucks or somewhere that's safe and secure, and we can resolve any issues. In terms of other states, what I expect is that over the next 3 to 5 years, this thing will take off. More and more states will get online notarization. Some states are considering bills, right? They're working on them. Just banks, credit unions, they want this, right? And they have lobbyists, and they lobby people, and they're pushing, and they see the convenience. They see the overall ability to control the process a little bit more. So it's going to happen, right? So it's over the next 3 to 5 years. I mean, all things considered, I love the state of Indiana, but we're the 3rd and the 5th state to do this. I mean, technically, it just doesn't happen that way usually. We're somewhere number 20, 21, 22, maybe 50, and we're ahead of the model. So if we get it, I know other states get it, other bodies get it, and over the next 3 to 5 years, I expect all 50 states you'll be able to do online notarization.
Anybody else have a question? Matt, you got one more? Okay.
I want to talk to you about the investment.
Okay.
What do you see that turning into? What kind of partnership? Or are you offering a board seat?
Absolutely. Well, it all depends on the individual. I know some investors strictly want to be investors, arm's length, Some want to be involved. We've talked to some people that want to be involved. We've talked to some people that want to, hey, I'm just an investment. This is what it is. If it works, great. If it doesn't, great. I'm on to the next concept. I envisioned initially someone who has some real estate experience, right? Of course, being on the board, working in the business, depending on where they are in their careers, right? Most people, if they run a real estate business 30, 40 years, do they want to really work on a day-to-day title company? They may more so want to be an advisor, right? So I'm pretty flexible with that, understanding that you have to be flexible, right? If we want to get this done, and no matter what position, what role they want to play, we'll be able to work with that.
I like your passion about Gary, too. While you were talking about that, I was thinking about those mortgage companies in Cleveland and Detroit that are just sort of rebuilding those towns.
Absolutely.
And I think you are actually in a more advantageous position than those large nationwide companies that are developing this, too, because they are prohibited by doing this because of the cost of doing it.
Right.
Whereas you're building the model up from the ground up and you can duplicate it. They're looking at putting one big enterprise project down in all 50 states. I think you're actually in a much more advantageous position to develop this. I think you could this could be really huge.
Thank you, and I hope so, and I believe so. And I'm passionate, about the project, and I'm passionate about the city of Gary. I know I don't have a lot of experience, but I know how to ask questions. No, I don't think it's brain surgery. You just have to put in the right time, the right energy, and efforts, and you find the right people. Right, the people that are out here to help us, and just ask questions, and we'll be okay. And I think we will do well. I think we're ahead of the pack, which is good. And I think there's demand for the product. So and if we do what we have to do, when those two forces meet, bam.
Any other questions? No? How about a round of applause again for Justin?
Thank you. Thank you much.
Justin, do you give a lot of presentations?
I have in the past. It's
Been a while? You a little nervous?
Yeah, in the very beginning I was.
Yeah,
right.
beads of sweat.
Yeah. and I got to lose that 15 pounds. So I got
Yeah, give a couple more presentations. You'll be there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much. So good job. Thank you. Again, Justin Smith and eTitle, or Justin Harris. Where am I going with that? Okay, that's why, because Troy Smith is next week. There you go. And that's what I'm going to tell you about now. If you have a question such as, is it better to do less reps with more weights or more reps with less weight? Troy Smith, sorry, Justin, an independent personal trainer could have your answer. Troy guides and teaches people how to improve their physical well-being, and we'll discuss constant tension training. It's not easy to say, and high energy enthusiasm. That's next week. Again, thank you to Coffee Cabin, and we're thinking about Nana with NanaSweetsBakery.com. A little bit under the weather, hopefully back with us soon. Every Wednesday, 9:15 to 10 o'clock here in the CMAC building, 7150 Indianapolis Boulevard. I'm your host, Sam Michael. We'll see you next